Hello, listeners. Welcome to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie and with Corey.
Hello, everybody.
Unlocking Your Truth is a talk show, and it's about metaphysics and spirituality. And we broadcast every week at 7 o'clock Pacific time from CIVL on 101.7 FM across the Fraser Valley from the unceded territory of the Tolle Nation. And we also are on all major podcasting platforms, and we live stream from our Facebook group, which is called Awaken Your Psychic Abilities Facebook group, and also from my YouTube channel.
Hang on one moment. I don't see you on Facebook, Dr. Leslie. Oh, there you are. I got you now. You just clicked up late for me.
Would you like me to start again? Would you want to cut that bit out?
Yeah, I'll cut that bit out.
Okay. Yeah, listeners, welcome to all of those of you who are joining us live in our chat room. We pre-record the show on Facebook and YouTube, and actually on Zoom. So if you are a member of the Facebook group, the Awaken Your Psychic Abilities Facebook group, or you follow me on YouTube, then you can join in the live chat. You can ask your questions live on air. Tonight's show is about life purpose. And what's the exact title, Corey?
The exact title is, what is my purpose in life? Do I actually have one? Each person, just as a notation, each person that has ever lived has asked themselves the same question at some point in time. So what is the purpose in life? How do you find your purpose in life?
Great question. Great question. So let's see, what angle shall we approach this from? I guess we might say, you're alive, you're in a body, here you are. Must be a purpose, right?
That's what I understand.
Yes, yeah. And so I think that there are different ways of looking at the idea of life purpose. And I think most people, when they ask the question, what's my purpose in life, they're looking for perhaps a role that they can take on or a contribution that they can make. A lot of people really want to make a contribution, to make a difference with their life, to be able to help other people. So I think often where that question's coming from is that desire to be of service, that desire to help people.
That's a good thing.
Mm-hmm. And for a spiritual perspective, and so as humans, we often think about our life purpose is a doing. It's something that we do, it's something that we succeed at, and it's something that we achieve. But from a spiritual perspective, that's not necessarily what it's about. Because you are spirit and you exist. And one of the things that you're doing here in a body is bringing that light of spiritual consciousness all the way here into the material realm. And that's really not a doing, it's a being. It's the process of you shining your light here through this body. It's the process of you actually becoming more and more authentically yourself and anchoring your light in this world so that you can share of your unique essence with this world. We had a really good conversation actually in one of my classes this morning about this, or a related topic. Somebody was asking about oneness. And the analogy that I used to talk about oneness was a giant jigsaw puzzle.
It's
And
interesting.
so you can, depending on what you want to think about, right? You can think about God or divine source energy, or you can just think about the human species on Earth. Either one of those works for the analogy. And so God or source energy is everything, is the oneness, is the complete jigsaw puzzle. But each one of us is an aspect of that, is an individuated God particle. So you could think each one of us is one piece in that jigsaw puzzle of life. And our piece, our individual piece of that jigsaw puzzle is completely unique. So there's no other jigsaw puzzle piece exactly like your piece, and there's no other jigsaw puzzle piece exactly like my piece. They're totally unique. And to make the jigsaw puzzle whole and to make it work, then it's necessary for each of us to occupy that place within the jigsaw puzzle that's ours, where we fit. So it's to honor our uniqueness and be ourselves, because if I tried to be your piece, you might be a corner piece and I might be a middle piece, right? It wouldn't work, would it, if we tried to swap places? So I think about life purpose in many ways is about honoring yourself, being true to yourself, so that you can be that unique one that you came here to be. And therefore, that involves you knowing yourself, knowing who you are, and connecting to that unique divine essence and expressing that through your body.
So it's interesting when you said that, something tweaked in me that in Earth, a lot of what we have here is duplicated in a sense from the energy and in the spiritual. And so if you look at our bodies as a whole, right? Each part of our body has a unique purpose in its being. And in order for our whole being to be at 100% tip-top perfect health, each of those pieces in our body have to be working at 100% as well, and living their specific little bit of life purpose, which can be another little...
Yeah, it's another good metaphor, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. The liver needs to function as a liver, and it serves the whole body by being the liver.
Yeah.
Another good analogy is an orchestra, right?
Yeah.
So the clarinet doesn't want to play the violin, and the violin doesn't want to play the oboe, because then you get disharmony. And there's no
unnecessary piece of the orchestra or the body. It's all functioning together. And when one piece doesn't function properly, the tones and the music is just, it might still be there, but it's just off a little bit. And so when you look at our world, maybe one of the reasons that our world is off so far sometimes is that we're just not, as individuals, as groups, as countries, as whatever you want to look at, we're not living our purpose. We're trying to be doing something other than what we should be doing, or what we set out to do.
We're being someone other than ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. And of course, I think one of the human foibles that crops up that's relevant here is competition. So you can think of any number of different situations, whether you're in school learning, at work, or play. I mean, playing a sport probably isn't a good example because that's a physical example, but often what people will do is compare themselves to their classmates or their peers. and see another person whose life appears to be fabulous, who appears to be doing really well, and we want to be more like them, or we compete against them. And of course, in the context that we were just talking about, that doesn't make any sense, because then you're trying to be like somebody that you're not. You're trying to be that other person. Or we're trying to meet someone else's external expectations, which also may not be in alignment with who we really are. This is why all of the ancient mystery schools, the prime directive was, get to know yourself. Get to know yourself, because you might think you know who you are, but who are you really? And often we identify with labels. My job, how much money I earn. I'm a doctor, my purpose is to be a doctor, or I'm a financier, that's my purpose, is to make money, and so on. But that's a label. That's something that you're doing, as opposed to, being yourself. Now, you could do any of those functions as yourself, but it's not actually the same thing. So to really know yourself, you have to look more deeply beyond the labels and the words that you would use to describe yourself, because they are just the surface, and they are just a surface level expression of a deeper truth and a deeper reality within you. And that process of finding yourself, it can actually take time, and it can involve peeling away layers of labels that you've either given yourself or that someone else has projected onto you. And we all get a heck of a lot of programming when we're kids about who we should be and how we should behave and what we should do with our lives. And so for many of us, to ask that question, who am I, and truly know yourself, you have to take off those garments that are not your true outfit, so that you can finally connect with that inner spark, that unique God particle that you are, and then know yourself as that. And when you know yourself as that, all of those labels fall away. And then you can connect with that divine spark of light that you are, that co-creator with the divine. So you can see yourself as the source of your own life, as the creator of your own life, and feel what the passion and momentum within your unique spark of divine. Because it can be quite confusing when there's all sorts of shoulds and projections over the top of you that say that you ought to do this and you should be that. Well, maybe that's not what your preference is. Maybe that's not what your heart's affinity would lead you to do.
So how does life purpose, intuition, psychic abilities, spirituality, how can you use those tools? How can you use those tools in life so that you're maximizing your life?
Okay. So in learning to meditate and in learning to use your clairvoyance and your other intuitive gifts like your knowingness, those inner senses help you explore the inner dimension of self, so that you can reveal to yourself who you really are. So number one, they can help you with what we were just talking about, knowing yourself. They can also help you to identify what really isn't you and peel away the layers of non-self. And once you have the clarity about who you are and why you're here and what you choose to do with your life, what you want to do with your life, then as your life evolves, your intuitive gifts can help guide you in making choices and making decisions, or answer the question, is this in alignment with my highest and greatest good? So they really can support you in all of this.
Yeah. See, to me, when I look at it, I see a division there. I see a division, of course, between your spiritual nature and your physical nature. But then I also add in a career nature, which is, I think everybody has those three. Family is important, but I think as a male, a lot of males have that. I've got to have that career in order to have the family, in order to be spiritually fulfilled as well. And so, like, knowing how to understand and to search out my purpose gets confused quite often with this reality and the career aspect of reality. And I find that's a very tough choice, especially as a masculine person. And I'm not taking away from the female nature whatsoever. I mean, women have wonderful career goals as well, and they're right up there. But in our nature, you'll see men's nature, there's a bit of a different drive. I mean, we're all a little bit different. Maybe you can answer that after the break.
Okay.
Oh, would that be okay?
Sure.
So let's take a break. Go ahead, Dr. Leslie. Dr. Leslie. Well, I'll do it then. Well, folks, we're going to take a short break. This is CIVL, and you're listening to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, listeners. You're tuning in to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie and Corey. Before the break, Corey was talking about, well, the way he said it was spirit, body, and career, and being a man.
As being a man.
As being a man. So you are spirit, that is who you are. Your body is your creation. It's a projection of your own consciousness that you inhabit. And your career is your creation as well. And so whether it's your body or your career, how true to your inner being is that projection, is that creation? So you were talking earlier about a healthy body. So if you are in alignment with your higher being, then your body is going to be healthier, perhaps, than if you're not. If you are in alignment with your higher being, well, actually, I might contradict myself in a minute.
Okay.
I mean, the first point is your body is your creation, a projection of your higher being, and actually so is your career. It's an expression, it's a creation, it's something that you have created and you are creating. And if you are in alignment with your higher being, if you know yourself, as we were talking about earlier, and if you follow your guidance, then your creations will feel right. You will feel more in sync with your creations. But if you don't know yourself, and if you're out of alignment with your higher being, and you're following all of those shoulds and ought tos, then it will not feel so like the shoe that fits. And yes, men, as you were saying, unfortunately, there is programming in many of our cultures and societies about what's expected of you if you're in a male body, or what's expected of you if you are in a female body. So I think some of what you were talking about was that cultural programming. And, you know, and then we might say that perhaps there's a biological level as well to the purpose of the and function of the male body and the purpose and function of the female body. Because a female body can make babies and a male body can't, so that there is a biological purpose inbuilt within the female body that relates to having babies. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have a choice, because of course you do. You can be in a female body and biologically that body's built and has a, what's the word? It wants to reproduce, but as spirit,
it's a drive. Yeah, there's a drive there.
Yeah, as spirit, you have a choice to create that or not create that. And we all have a choice in anything and everything that we do, although many of us don't realize it.
But if you look at people and careers, I wonder what percentage of people are actually happy in their career, are happy in getting up in the morning and going and doing what they do. I don't think it's a very large percentage of the population.
It's 20% or less.
Yeah. So can this percentage of the population that is unhappy with their career still be happy with regards to their purpose, or are they unable to separate career and purpose? For instance, say I'm a truck driver, and I'm getting tired of driving, and it's frustrating on the road. But then when the weekend comes along, my spiritual nature is to help people fulfill their spirituality as well. So is it possible to live in that sort of dilemma or I don't know what the words are, like that contradiction?
Okay, well, I'll answer your question, but I'll answer your question by not answering your question first.
Oh, well, that explains it all.
Okay, so let's say your purpose is to express yourself as the healer that you are. Let's say that you're a master of balance, and your purpose, if you really anchor your light in your being, then it's to be in balance within yourself, and it's to help other people to come into balance. Well, you could be a hairdresser or a mechanic and have people coming into your hairdresser's chair or your garage or whatever it is, and every person that crosses your path, have a conversation with them where there's an exchange of information and energy, where that person goes away more enlightened, where you grow as a result, and you're fulfilling your purpose. So it doesn't mean that someone with a purpose as a healer has to look like a healer. It doesn't look like they have to be John of God or a surgeon or any other number of other things. They can be fulfilling. A comedian is a healer, because in fact comedians are the best healers, because they raise the vibration. They help everyone to move into a vibration of amusement, and in that vibration of amusement there's no you forget about your cares and concerns and your illness and so on. So career and purpose are perhaps different, and you can be yourself and be expressing yourself and your inner being as in those examples I just gave. But let's take the example that you gave where it said, well, I am a truck driver and I don't like being a truck driver, but in the weekend, I'm a spiritual teacher and I love that. And then you said, do they have to be in conflict?
No, the jobs don't have to be in conflict, but the dislike of the job
Okay.
is what I'm talking about.
So what
And the unhappiness at driving a truck.
So, okay, then you're talking about the vibration. So if that person is unhappy driving the truck and they're in that vibration of I'm unhappy, I don't like this, I'm resisting this, then they're in resistance and they're out of alignment.
So the two let me use a different example, and it just came to me a perfect example. A woman who is a microbiologist, a scientist, and all of a sudden realizes that she wants to get back into being a psychic and intuitive teacher. So could you have done, and I'm talking about Dr. Leslie, of course.
It's not all of a sudden, by the way.
No, it's not all. It didn't like, oh, one day I'll wake up and I'll start doing readings. No, like how did that? How did that happen? How did that change in? That was a massive change. I mean, that was a really massive change in your life, and a scary change.
So I can talk about that from my own personal journey and my own personal perspective, but that is my unique journey. And so again, everyone has a unique journey. So, my personal experience, because not everybody on earth wants the same things that I want, right?
Definitely.
But how that happened for me was, it's a long story. I'll try and make it a short story. The more I got in, the more I went through the process we were talking about at the beginning of the show, peeling away the layers. Because I guess I was that person where I thought the job title was important. How many air miles I traveled was important. How much money I made was important. And I went through a process of spiritual awakening where I got to learn which of the aspects that I was living were true to myself and which of them were societal, cultural, familial programming. And I deprogrammed myself. And I went through this process of self-revelation to know myself. And the more I knew myself, then the more I got in touch with the path that I'm on now. And the more that I opened my intuitive abilities, the more I was able to observe myself and other things in my life at the time. And the more I worked on myself, I became a vibrational mismatch for that other world that I was in. And I did live a double life for many, many years. Psychic healer, teacher by night, business development director in a pharma company by day. And eventually it wasn't sustainable. And eventually I made a choice. That's an example of my path. I have many students who learn to develop their intuition, and some of them are doing it because that's what they want to do in the world, and some of them are doing it because They want to stay a business executive, but they want to be able to use their intuition. So but it really is all about, as an individual, learning about yourself, knowing yourself, and truly knowing what it is that you want, what sparks you in the morning. Because, you know, you might be here to have an influence on the environment. That might be what you love. So you may stay working for an environmental company or a environmental consultancy, but develop, you know, and that is true to your inner being, and you develop your abilities, and that helps you steer your path. So it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone's going to give up their job, but it might enable you to make a change based on what you find out about yourself.
So do you think that, you know, there's an old saying that says, do what you love and the money will follow? You know, like, do what you love and you'll be taken care of on a physical nature?
I personally believe that. I do. And that's the reality that I've created. I think that's one of the things that's very hard for people to believe, though. So many people don't believe that.
That's true. Like I'm a living example of that as well. But yet I'm still one of those people. I've been doing exactly what I want to do since 2000 and the end of 2005. And I'm still, this is what now, 15, 16 years later, and I'm still going, am I really living this? When is the bubble going to burst? Right.
Right. Well, and so it's a good idea to let go of that belief, because, you know, if you believe there's going to be a bubble that's going to burst, maybe there will be.
Yeah.
So you create your reality through the energy that you are.
Very true. Very true.
If you observe a belief that's not in alignment with what you're wanting to create, then it's a good idea to let go of that limiting belief.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, you know, it's very true. It's very true. It doesn't suit you to, or doesn't benefit you to sit into that negativity for too long, because just sitting in the negativity will cause you to not be fully there, be fully present in what you're doing. It's one of those things. It's like the old adage, you know, if you don't love someone, or if you don't love something, love it. Loving is an experience, is a verb. It's about doing, and no matter what you do, in a way, you can see a beauty in it. You can see a beauty of it. It just, I mean, you got there. It's like a relationship with a person. You got there. You saw something in that person originally, and I think a lot of us let go of things like relationships and careers and jobs a little too quickly in our society today, because we feel we see other people, and we see, and media and television, movies, all those things are showing this level of life and living that's way up here. Like, you have to be perfectly happy with the perfect looking person on the perfect job, so you can drive the perfect car, and you can live in the perfect home, eating the perfect food. And if you're not doing any of those, you are out of alignment. But you're not.
Well, that's completely not true, is it?
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. But that's what I'm saying. A lot of people have a problem staying out of that negativity, because we sort of keep jumping into that pond of negativity, being the media and television and movies and things like that.
What you're describing is chasing things outside yourself. chasing the labels and chasing things outside yourself, which is actually the opposite of what we're suggesting is a path to finding purpose. We're suggesting that the path to finding purpose is to turn within and know yourself, not to chase things outside of yourself that someone else is programming you to believe is the panacea.
True. Well, Dr. Leslie, I think it's time for another break.
Okay, well, listeners, we'll be back after a few messages.
So get your questions ready.
Welcome back, listeners. You're tuning in to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie and Corey, having a
Hello.
conversation about life purpose.
Or the purpose of life, which is not the same as life purpose. One quick question before I go to listeners' questions. Can one carry on a life purpose from a past life to a present life?
Yes. And one can change life purpose partway through an existing life.
But you can't change a life purpose from a past life.
Yeah, you can.
In a past life.
You mean
go into the past and change your life purpose. No. So you can carry forth on a life purpose.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
The soul may explore a particular theme over multiple lifetimes. Sure.
Okay, thank you. So we got some questions from our wonderful listeners, and this is from Katie. Katie says, how do you define or find your purpose without labeling it or listing what we quote unquote do? Do you have an example?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very good question. And I'll give you an example, but it's not exactly an example. And I identify with this. So I've been re-listening to The Power of Now this week. And Eckhart Tolle talks about his spiritual awakening. And he talks about, he was a PhD student, I think, and he had a realization that there were two voices talking to each other inside of him. And one of them said, I can't stand living with myself anymore. And then he went, who is the one that can't stand living with the other one? And who's the other one that it can't stand living with? And that sort of exploded his mind and moved him into this state. So that night, he went through an experience and he woke up the next morning a completely changed man. In that experience, all the labels fell away. And he stopped being a PhD student, and he basically spent the next few years just in the moment, being, without any labels, just being and in the moment, with no identity. Eventually, he took on another identity though, didn't he? And the next identity was as a spiritual teacher, and that is a label, isn't it? And so I think to be in the world and exist in the world and interact with others in the world, in order for others to understand us, we do need to use language to describe ourselves. But that state of where the labels drop away and you have no identity, I've been through that myself. So in my transition out of being a scientist and business development director, I removed all the labels, maybe in a less dramatic way than Eckhart Tolle did it. But I went through a process of a year or so where there were no labels, and all of the things that had meaning for me in the past had no meaning for me. Then the same thing happened to me. I followed my joy and recreated myself into something that now has labels. So can you be in the world without labels? You can. You can be in the world without labels. You can, but it's hard to interact with the rest of the world, perhaps.
It's hard to get the rest of the world to interact with you.
Hmm.
If you want to be a spiritual teacher, if you don't define yourself as a spiritual teacher, nobody's going to seek you out as a spiritual teacher.
I think for Eckhart Tolle, he embodied the spiritual teacher that he was, and people started listening to him, and he started speaking to them, and eventually that was the mantle that was taken on.
But you know yourself that we've spoken to, to his publisher, and I've spoken to Eckhart as well. It wasn't, it wasn't overnight. His changes occurred and his revelations occurred very quickly, but his transition was fraught with work and energy. He had to call himself an author first, then he had to call himself basically a guest on Oprah before it really went anywhere. And I think we're all glad he did. But okay, next question. This is from Shannon Laurel Driscoll, who has labeled us. She says, "Hi, lovely Leslie and Mr. Corey." So we've been labeled here. But that's okay, Shannon. That's wonderful labels. That's who we are. "I'm so grateful for both of you, Leslie. I'm wondering if you can, I'm so grateful for you both. Leslie, I am wondering if you can see insight and tune into other people's purpose. I'd love to see what you see for me."
So the short answer to that is yes. The long answer is, I would never pronounce upon somebody, "You are this." It's not my business, is it? It's for you to reveal to yourself who you are and why you're here. But I did create a special type of reading that I do called a Psychic Ability Blueprint. And the idea of that reading, I can't believe you haven't had one, Shannon. Maybe you haven't, I can't remember. But is that in any life, you are an infinite being. And yet, when you create a lifetime, it's finite. So you cannot bring everything that you are into a single lifetime, nor is that the purpose of that lifetime. The purpose of any single lifetime is to focus, because being in a body, being in the physical world, or one of the purposes is, it affords you this ability to really home in and focus on things and amplify them and learn them in a way that's not possible out of the body. Because here we have time and space. So your energy is creating your reality, but it shows up later in time, right? And so you get the chance to learn from it as it rolls out. Whereas in the non-physical, you change your energy and instantly the results are equally instantly there. So in the Psychic Blueprint, we look at what did you bring in this lifetime? What did you choose from your infinite being to bring into this lifetime? And we look at the chakras, and we look at the unique profile of 22 different psychic abilities, because we say, well, that's your toolkit, that you are bringing forward this lifetime to support the purpose that you set for yourself this lifetime. And then we go through that reading and we look at all of those different aspects and why you have them and how you meant to use them. And so through that 90-minute reading, we paint a picture of what your purpose is. So it's a process of revelation, of helping you understand yourself more deeply, and so that the awareness of more information about your purpose can come forward.
Thank you, Dr. Leslie. By the way, folks, if you have any questions, it doesn't have to be 100% on psychic abilities. So you can ask other questions as well. Plus, if you're enjoying the show, please give us a like, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. And next question, plus I've put the link for Blueprint on the in the what do you call them, comments. So this is from SG. SG says, my question is about friendship. We recently stopped talking over an argument, and I want to know if this friendship is worth the wait, and will it improve, or is it time to walk away for good? The idea of us ending makes me sad, but if it's meant to be, it's meant to be.
Well, you create your reality, SG, and the other person equally creates their reality. And so, and you both have free will and free choice, and you're both on your unique path as well. And so whether the friendship continues depends on both of you. And so it's not something that's fated or not fated. And I'm seeing that you're more willing to work it out than your friend is at this point. And it takes two, doesn't it? It takes two. So I think all you can do is decide what you want. And if what you want is to continue the friendship, then you could communicate that to this other person. But if this other person can't hear you, doesn't want the same thing that you want, then you have to respect that. If I look at the energy of it, it looks like they're sort of still caught up in their pain, really.
I'm losing my voice tonight. Excuse me. This is from Nate. Nate says, I'm unsure if my purpose is my childhood passion, baseball, or something completely different. Would love some quick insight.
Okay. Well, I would just ask some questions back at you. How did baseball make you feel when you were young? What was it that you loved about baseball? You know, what were the elements and aspects that were so great about that made you feel so passionate? Because it could be different things for different people. You know, one person might be, well, I like getting outside and I love the exercise and I love breathing the fresh air. Another person might say, oh, I love the companionship of the rest of the baseball of the team. Another person might say, I like the adulation of the crowd. So what was it for you? What are the elements for you? What are the boxes that baseball ticked for you? And then look at that, because that might give you some information about what makes you tick and what excites you, and you know, how you feel passionate about something. So is your purpose baseball? I would say, what's the vibration, the feeling associated with the baseball? What did baseball give you or allow you to express within yourself? You know, maybe you loved it because there were some great people that you had some great conversations with. There could be all sorts of reasons. So I'd say think about it a little bit more deeply.
Thank you. This is from Kat. Kat says, what if you can't feel your emotions enough to try to find your purpose? Like I've realized I can't feel anything and it sort of scares me. Sometimes I used to wake up and be clear-headed to the point of this is what I need to be doing, but it's brief. Then it's like an abyss closes. Is there any way to get around this block so I can try to maybe fake my emotions enough to be able to see what I should be doing with my life? I feel like this is wrong to say, but I can't find an answer.
Well, I think you're looking in the wrong place here because your purpose is not in your emotions. Your emotions are, I mean, they're energy vibrations, but they emanate from your body. And so it's a communication from your body that says, I like this or I don't like that. But it's not necessarily relating to your life purpose. So I would say, you know, step one is to understand, you know, we said, know thyself. You are spirit. You're not your emotions. Your emotions are not part of who you are as spirit. They're not part of your spiritual communication system. They're part of your body and your body's way of communicating. And they're not the answers to your life purpose are not in your thoughts or your mind either. They're in the unique vibration that you are. And so we don't need to fake emotions in order to propel us onto our purpose. Now, you can learn to manage your vibration when you know what your purpose is to help you attract things that are on a match for that. So let's look at your energy, Kat. Because I think you're getting confused between body and spirit. And you're looking inside your body for your answers, and that's not where they are. And so I would, rather than trying to find out what your emotions are, although I'll talk about that in a moment, I'd you know, perhaps look into doing some meditation to connect with your higher being, because that's where the answers to this question are. Now, why can't you feel your emotions? That's a whole other question, isn't it? And if your emotions are a signal from your body, why are you ignoring your body? Why are you denying your emotions? And so to look at that body-spirit relationship would be another area I would point you to. You are spirit, you have a body, but the two are meant to be in alignment and in communication and taking each other into account.
Thank you, Dr. Leslie.
You're welcome.
One more question, and that is from Neil. Neil says, how to accept the truth if ego is in front of the truth?
How to accept the truth is if ego is in front of the truth.
Yeah, I think how to see the truth if the ego is in front of the truth.
I was going to say, you know, so oftentimes if ego is in front of the truth, we don't even know the truth because the ego is the dominant factor. But it is possible actually to be aware of a spiritual perspective on something and still have the ego dominate. And again, I would just say that this is a process of meditation to learn who you are. I'm not my emotions, I'm not my thoughts, I'm not my ego, I'm different than my body is my creation. And so all of these are kind of, my ego is an outfit that I'm wearing, really. It's a projection it's a self-made projection of self. So, meditate, learn the difference between who you are and your ego, and then find a way that works for you, that allows spirit to be the one that leads, spirit to be the one that guides, spirit to be the one that makes the decisions and the choices, and then have the body and its aspects be the one that helps carry them out, as opposed to the one that takes the stance and makes the choices.
Thank you, Dr. Liz.
Yeah,
oh, sorry.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And that's the show for tonight.
Brilliant.
Yes. It's wonderful. Thank you for all your insights. It's a lovely show. And we'll see everybody next week, I guess.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.